What it is, cuckolds. It's your boy the hater. It's Friday night. I'm outside, which could mean only one thing and one thing only. Hater Outdoors Smackdown review. Let's get to it. This was one of the worst, if not the worst, episodes of Smackdown of all time. I have a lot to say about this, so let's get to it without any further ado. First of all, Solo Sikoa starts out the show, and he does his usual shtick, I should say, saying, "Acknowledge me." Now, Solo Sikoa is the only character on this show that makes sense. And I'll get to that later when we talk about what he actually does in the show. This first segment is a throwaway segment with Jey Uso coming in unexpectedly and saying absolutely nothing. He comes out and he says, "We need to be united, Uso. I became Intercontinental Champion, Uso," right? And then Solo Sikoa is like, "Why did you just waste my time?" You know? And I couldn't help but empathize with Solo Sikoa because I felt the exact same thing. Why did this guy just waste our times telling us that he's the Intercontinental Champion? We already know. You know what I mean? Basically, he's like, "We need to be united, Uso." And then, he's like, "I don't want to fight, but, Jacob's looking at me weird. You know, we were going to, keep him out of it, and now you brought him in. Who gives a shit? You know what I mean? He contradicts himself because he's a complete idiot. He's like, you say you want to unite the bloodline, but why are they here? You know, to unite the bloodline. Solo Sikoa already explained that, dummy. You know what I mean? He explained it. He's like, I want to bring more people in. And then Jay's like, "I don't agree with this." Great, nobody asked you. You know what I'm saying? Nobody asked you. The people that did ask you, Jimmy Uso and by extension Roman Reigns, aren't even part of this segment. So the way that this played out was Jey Uso came out basically to just kind of do his own thing. You know what I mean? Unrelated to what's happening with, Roman Reigns and Jimmy Uso, he came in for that particular purpose. And it was really, really weird. Anyways, the segment was a complete bust. He leaves without fighting, and he says, "Next time I see you, it'll be different." Yeet. And then, nobody cares. Jacob Fatu's there, ready to just destroy him, and Solo holds him back, right? And it's they could have easily just destroyed him. I don't know why they didn't. I guess because he's not antagonizing them. And because he's not really part of this, and that makes sense, right? He's in a different show completely. So this segment is a glorious D-. Nothing happened here at all. The story wasn't progressed in any capacity other than the inevitable union of Jey Uso with Roman Reigns and Jimmy Uso, which we already knew was going to happen. So this doesn't really add anything at all as far as I'm concerned. Next up, we have the first of 2 triple threat tag team matches, the winners of which will wrestle each other, I believe, next week to become the #1 contenders for the title. Whatever, right? It is what it is. I knew that DIY was going to win because earlier today, WWE.com released footage, right, saying that breaking news, the Motor City Machine Guns have signed with WWE, and they made it seem as if they signed with WWE today, right? But that's really weird because later on in the night, they already had a full Titantron. So are we to believe that the Titantron was just made in the same day, right? It doesn't make any sense. Obviously, what happened was they signed many, many, many weeks ago, many months ago, perhaps, right? And that would make a lot more sense. I don't know why they have to pretend that they signed today. They could just be like, "Oh, the Motor City Machine Guns are here." Personally, I would have just had it be a surprise, right? So they would get a bigger pop. I don't understand why they revealed this earlier. Maybe so they can get a few 100,000 views on their YouTube video, but that's the only explanation I could think of. Nevertheless, we're not there yet. But as I said, DIY is obviously going to win because DIY versus Motor City Machine Guns is the match that's going to be the best match out of all the permutations of the 6 tag teams that are in these 2 matches. Also, obviously, we're assuming that Motor City Machine Guns are going to win, right? So Motor City Machine Guns versus Street Profits is not compelling, right? Motor City Machine Guns versus Pretty Deadly is not compelling. The thing that makes the most sense is Motor City Machine Guns versus DIY because they're very similar, right? They're supposed to be these 2 high chemistry tag teams, right? They just do really good tag team wrestling. So that kind of ruined the match for me. The match in and of itself wasn't bad. All the people involved are decent in the ring, right? But nobody involved, aside from perhaps Montez Ford, is interesting in any capacity. And quite frankly, the Street Profits came out looking like complete idiots. Because long story short, both the Street Profits and DIY simultaneously pin one of the 2 guys from the other team, right? Angelo Dawkins looks like a retard because he's just standing there basically, right? And so does Johnny Gargano or whoever didn't pin the guy. They should be breaking up the other pin just in case. But they both pin the person simultaneously. Very weird because what happens is there's a tag. The blonde, pretty deadly guy, I don't know their names, tags in the brown-haired one, right? So the brown-haired one is the legal man. The blonde one takes the blockbuster doomsday device thing that the Street Profits do. Now, as the move happens, the other one from Pretty Deadly comes in, and he gets hit with the meeting in the middle, right? And then while all of this unfolds, there's a double pin. Now, Angelo Dawkins is to blame for this. So is Montez Ford, right? And so is the other guy from DIY who didn't pin, right? Because they just waited there. But this is especially egregious for Montez Ford and Angelo Dawkins, and even more so for Angelo Dawkins, because you pinned the wrong guy, dummy, you know? Like, how stupid are you? You know, like, how can you even be happy with your performance if you don't even know who you're supposed to pin? It's just really, really bad booking, right? It made the Street Profits look like dumbasses, especially Angelo Dawkins, who basically just did his part of the doomsday device and just stood there until the pinfalls unfolded right in front of him while he was in the ring. Really, really bad booking. DIY wins. The referee is like, okay, they win because they pinned the right guy. And the match, the philosophy of the match clearly was that, okay, Street Profits did a really good job, but apparently, they didn't pin the right guy, and this is supposed to be like an attempt to make them seem like capable, right? Because it's like, oh, they did everything perfectly until the very last second. Yeah, but that mistake they made is too much to forgive. It's too much to ignore. So this match, because of that, was a complete disaster. And also, as I said, we already knew who was going to win, so nothing really happened here, right? Afterwards, we see Roman Reigns and Jimmy Uso finally arriving at the arena. I don't know why they came late, right? It's very odd that they came late. Why aren't they there on time? You know, the kayfabe reason is because they don't want to interact with Jey Uso, right? Not their kayfabe reason, but like the kayfabe reason for having it be this way. Meaning that, now Jey Uso is going to leave and they're here, so they can't be there simultaneously, except for this brief interaction that they have. They get out of a car and they talk about how they're listening to the new Travis Barker or Travis Scott. I don't even know, one of these jobber rappers that nobody really cares about, you know what I mean? Rap peaked in like 2000. Well, it probably peaked in like 1999, but nevertheless, it re-peaked, later, and now everything's just complete garbage. I don't know any of these songs. And Roman Reigns is like, the song hasn't been released yet. Wow, how awesome. He has access to a song by somebody that I know he's a big deal, Travis Scott or Travis Barker. I know one of them is like the drummer for a band and the other one's a rapper, but I don't know which one's which because I don't care, right? But he has access to this song. Wow, isn't he cool? No, he isn't. So then, as they're leaving, Jey Uso as they're coming in, Jey Uso is leaving, right? And Roman says, I'm proud of you. And then Jey Uso just says, no yeet, because that's all he does. He just says yeet and no yeet. This guy's basically retarded. They should team him up with Tama Tonga and call them the Samoan dipshits. But anyways, they go in there, Jimmy Uso's like, yo, we're fucked, right? And Roman Reigns is like, I'm not going to do this. If we have the wise man, this would already be done. Why? What would he do? What? And also, why don't you have him? Why don't you have him? What, is he still in the hospital from taking one powerbomb? Like even a 95-year-old, if he took a powerbomb for real, would be out of the hospital by now if he survived, right? But for some reason, we're supposed to believe that Paul Heyman is just still nursing his injuries. It's just one powerbomb, bro. He's taken F5s and been back in 2 weeks. Sometimes he's taken finishing moves and been back in the next week with a neck brace maybe, but that's about it. Anyways, who cares, right? Basically, later on, I'll just skip to this part. Later on, they have another, meeting, Jimmy Uso and Roman Reigns, and Reigns is like, I'm going to go acknowledge Solo, right? That's the theme of the night, I suppose, right? After this, Nia Jax is supposed to have a tag team match with Tiffany Stratton, who is sick. So her partner is going to be Candice LeRae. Great. But before this circle jerk, we've got Piper Niven versus Lash Legend. Lash Legend wins with essentially, basically the 7-second ride that James Storm used to do, but obviously far less athletically than James Storm used to do it. I don't care about this at all. Nobody cares about this at all. Piper Niven and Chelsea Green are undercard nobodies, and so are Lash Legend and the other one, right? Nobody cares about them yet. Maybe one day, but this match didn't achieve that at all, right? Nobody cared in the slightest. Then we're already somehow in the first hour, the end of the first hour of the show, and the Cuckster himself comes out, and he cuts one of his most boring promos, which of course means that this promo is one of the worst promos of all time, right? He comes in there, they have that tacky-ass crown stool belt, right? Cody tries to put it over, but the belt is hideous. It's just this over-the-top belt that no reasonable person would ever want to wear. You know what I mean? Plus, the visual appeal of the belt, and Cody does point this out to his credit, has nothing to do with the prestige of the belt. It's not like the bigger the belt, the more important it is, right? This belt is unimportant. Nobody cares about it at all, right? Some of the boxing world titles are like one tiny little gold plate with basically like cloth for the belt part, right? They look like shit, but they're prestigious because they're like 100-year-old titles. You know what I mean? That have been held by like Jack Dempsey and fucking Mike Tyson and, you know, all the greats basically, right? But anyways, the point is Cody tries to put it over and he says he's doing it for his daughter, right? Which I think is stupid, annoying, pretentious, and in my opinion, disrespectful. Other people have children. It's not just Cody Rhodes. You know what I mean? But for some reason, Cody presents himself as like the only guy that cares about leaving a legacy. I'm gonna win because I want my daughter to like respect me more. You know, you don't think Jimmy Uso and Jey Uso want their kids to respect them more? You don't think that anybody else that has children doesn't want that too? But for some reason, this gives Cody plot armor, right? And he cares more about what his daughter thinks. It's fucking annoying, it's pretentious, and it's very, very Cody Rhodes. And I fucking hated it. Then, to make matters even worse, Cody Rhodes says next week, we have to wait one more week, right? He's gonna invite Gunther to come and do the same thing they did Monday, basically, right? He said, I'm gonna invite Gunther to come and ask him why he wants to win. What? Why didn't you do this on Monday? All of this shit could be one promo. I'm going to win because my daughter means something to me. Gunther's going to say, I'm going to win because the mat is sacred. Great. What a compelling feud. Nobody gives a shit who wins. Nobody cares about this title. And quite frankly, nobody cares about Cody Rhodes or Gunther. But anyways, this is what we have to look forward to, right? Cody Rhodes booked next week. On Monday, nothing's going to happen. Gunther's not wrestling on Monday. Forget about that bullshit, right? And if he does, then he's going to wrestle on Monday and he's not going to wrestle for another 6 weeks. So who cares, right? Maybe Cody Rhodes will appear again. They're going to have this bullshit, and then eventually they're going to have a contract signing. You know that's going to fucking happen at some point. A contract signing, and nobody's going to give a shit about it at all, right? People, like, don't care about Cody Rhodes anymore. He wasn't getting massive reactions when he was talking. The entrance is always going to get the pops, but he's not going to get massive reactions when he's talking, right? Because nobody cares, and he's not good at talking. The entire promo was a complete disaster. Nobody could have possibly liked this, you know? At least a few weeks ago on Raw, they had Goldberg come in. At least that's more entertaining. But nevertheless, that's how it went down. Next, we have like a pre-taped promo with Kevin Owens. Kevin Owens' this new thing now basically is, I can't believe Randy Orton chose chose Cody Rhodes over me, right? And then he contradicts himself 100 times because he's like, yeah, everyone says that I betray everybody, but I wouldn't have betrayed Randy Orton. You said the same thing about Cody Rhodes. So just based on that fact alone, why would Randy Orton choose anybody, over Cody Rhodes, let alone Kevin Owens, right? Cody Rhodes is a face. He doesn't betray anybody, right? Kevin Owens is a heel perpetually who always betrays people. So even if you didn't give a shit about any of them, the smart person would be like, oh, I have to side with Cody Rhodes because Kevin Owens is prone to betraying everybody, right? And he betrayed Cody Rhodes. That's another reason why he sided with him, right? If two of your friends are fighting, but one of your friends beats up the other friend, you're more likely to side with the friend that got beaten up because he didn't do anything wrong. Furthermore, this ignores the fact that Kevin Owens elbowed Randy Orton in the face. That's another reason why he sided with you. Then Kevin Owens, also in this shit promo, he does like a woe is me, WWE doesn't respect me. Yet nobody respects you. You're garbage. Please go fire yourself. You know what I mean? I know he's not going to fire himself or quit, but someone should just fire him. He's not entertaining at all. Kevin Owens is one of the most boring people in the history of wrestling. But he's still there for some reason, and it's going to be a match between him and Randy Orton at Crown Stool. Now, I know this because the next segment is Randy Orton going to Nick Aldis' office and saying, I want him at Crown Stool. Basically, they go back and forth. Nick Aldis says, I can't do this because the order came from up top. So now Triple H and Randy Orton need to have a mandatory once a year or once every 6 months Triple H and Randy Orton in-ring segment where Randy Orton begs him for a match, and now Triple H is going to eventually give the match, right? Why doesn't Triple H want to make the match, right? I don't understand this weird thing where inexplicably sometimes people take these weird stances on certain matches but not others, right? We see this a lot with like monster type characters. You know, we see this a lot with like, like Mick Foley, I don't want Sami Zayn to wrestle Braun Strowman because he might hurt him. And then it's like, next, it's Braun Strowman versus R-Truth. Nobody cares if R-Truth gets hurt, right? Same thing here. For some reason, it's taboo to book Randy Orton versus Kevin Owens. Why? Why can't we just have the match that we're obviously going to have anyways? Why does there have to be resistance with everything in this fucking company? You know, why can't it be like, okay, these two guys hate each other, you're going to fight at the pay-per-view, right? It's always like, you can't fight because you don't deserve it. Oh, I don't deserve the title shot, Kevin Owens might say. Gunther might say, Sami Zayn, you don't deserve it, right? It's the same shit again and again. It's like, just be like, yeah, I'll fight you. Is there anybody that wants to wrestle? Is there anybody that wants to fight? Nobody wants to fight. Jey Uso comes from Raw and he's like, I don't want to fight. Well, then I don't want to see you, motherfucker. I'm not here to listen to Jey Uso promos. You know? Nobody wants us to hear a Jey Uso promo. No one's ever thought this show could be better if only Jey Uso cut a promo. That's never been thought of in the history of wrestling, except for tonight, apparently, by the bookers. But anyways, that was complete garbage. Kevin Owens sucks. Nobody cares about Kevin Owens. And quite frankly, at this point, I don't even give a shit about Randy Orton, right? Randy Orton has had the worst year of his career by far, right? By far. And he is so not compelling and so boring that I don't care if he wrestles Kevin Owens. I hope that this match is one that I miss early so I can skip it as I try to catch up with the pay-per-view whenever the fuck it's gonna happen, right? I don't care about this match. I don't care if Kevin Owens beats Orton, and I don't care if Orton beats Kevin Owens. And quite frankly, I think I speak for nearly everybody. Nobody cares. Nobody cares at all who comes out on top of this feud. Nobody gives a shit because the feud is meaningless. Anyways, let's move on to more meaningless shit. But first, we gotta talk about the debut of one of the best tag teams of all time, the Motor City Machine Guns. I'm a big Motor City Machine Guns fan, but the way that this match went down, it really was not a good idea because the Wade Barrett and Corey Graves were inadvertently burying the Motor City Machine Guns. One of the key things that they kept saying was that the Motor City Machine Guns have influenced a lot of tag teams that you know and love, right? And they've been doing this for a while, number two, and also, essentially, everything they're gonna do, since they've pioneered this style, I don't know what the style is, I guess it's like the throw two people out of the ring and do a suicide dive, like that kind of shtick, right? But basically, Wade and Corey were saying like, well, these guys have pretty much, they're gonna do what they do, but you've seen it all before. Okay, great, then I have no interest in watching this match. Thank you for robbing me of the pleasure of looking forward to this match. Oh, I can't expect them to do anything because people have copied them, and therefore I've seen everything they've done for the last 10 years? Great, then why have they been hired, right? Why didn't you hire them 10 years ago when they were innovating this, right? Think about how dumb this is, right? They're like, oh, here we have a tag team that we didn't give a shit about when they were good, and now that they're not as good because they're older and other people have copied them, now they're getting a shot, right? In my opinion, in this tag team match, the team that stood out the most was Los Garza. I can't believe it. Los Garza, those guys, for all the shit I talk about them, they're solid wrestlers, right? They know what they're doing. They seldom botch anything, right? And it makes me think, it's like, all right, if you're going to have Los Garza wrestle the exact same way as Motor City Machine Guns, then maybe give Los Garza a shot and don't give Motor City Machine Guns a shot in their 40s. But that's not what they went with. They went with what they went with. Long story short, Motor City Machine Guns do their moves. In the end, they hit the skull and crossbone, and they pin one of the jobbers that were involved in this match. The match also involved A-Town Down Under, who in my opinion should be called A-Town Unemployed, because these guys are complete garbage, especially Grayson Waller. Austin Theory, at the very least, he's in his 20s, I think, still, right? But he's been buried beyond belief. I don't think there's any situation where he can come back and be a credible wrestler again. But Grayson Waller, this guy has absolutely nothing going for him, right? I put him in the same category as Karrion Kross, in the sense that other people have said Grayson Waller can be a star. And to me, I'm like, have you people all lost your mind collectively at the same time? Right? It's the same thing I hear about Obafemi. They're like, Obafemi is going to be a massive star. You said the same thing about Keith Lee. You said the same thing about Karrion Kross. You said the same thing about Grayson Waller. And the hater has said about all of them, no, they won't. No, they won't. Grayson Waller is never going to be a star. Grayson Waller is a poor man's Justin Gabriel. That's all he is. He's just another Justin Gabriel. Nobody gives a shit about this guy. But anyways, nevertheless, he was on TV for some reason. But whatever. I didn't enjoy it. Nobody could have possibly enjoyed this, except for the fact that Motor City Machine Guns debuted, and obviously a debut in some capacity is going to be interesting to some people, including myself, right? Debuts are debuts. You know, you see something new, right? You see a new team, you're like, oh, I wonder where this is going to go. I don't think they're going to go anywhere. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I don't see why the Motor City Machine Guns are going to have a better career than Doug Gallows and Carl Anderson. Yeah, they're better in the ring, right? But nobody cares about all the shit that goes on in the ring, right? They're not better in the ring than Los Garza, and look at Los Garza, right? They're about the same as Los Garza, and Los Garza are jobbers. So I don't see why these guys would have this great success. And then also, when they came out, they were like running down the list of accolades. They didn't mention that both of them are former TNA champions. They didn't even mention that, which is the most important accolade. They're like, these guys are 3-time TNA tag team champions. 3-time, motherfucks. That's it. They've been a tag team for like 15 years. They've won the titles 3 times. This is not like this legendary tag team. I mean, they are for other reasons. Like, they're good wrestlers and things like that. And they've always been like entertaining in a certain way. And they have a certain level of athletic charisma, right? Like, it's almost like the things that they did, nobody else did before. Like all this like high octane offense, like, you know, but the Rascals do that now. And, you know, it is what it is, right? Sort of the Young Cucks. And that's what it is. But whatever. Not a great debut. They're probably going to win, but who cares? And they might even beat the Bloodline because, you know, the Bloodline's not a good tag team. But anyways, next up we have Naomi and Bayley, who continue to be on TV for some reason, versus Nia Jax and Candice LeRae, who serves as a replacement for Tiffany Stratton. The match ends after Indy Hartwell interferes, and Candice LeRae does like a lion salt, basically. And, you know, she wins, and it's presented as this like, wow, nobody expected this moment. Yeah, nobody did, but also nobody cared. So it's not like this big deal at all, right? Finally, now we get to the main event, essentially, right? The main event is a segment, which I have no problem with. I have no problem with the main event of a show or a show closing with a segment that's not a wrestling match. No problem at all, if it's good. This one was one of the worst segments of all time, right? So first of all, Roman Reigns comes out, and then Solo Sikoa comes out. Okay, fantastic. They start talking as if they just met today. This is the thing that should have happened when Roman Reigns returned. Roman Reigns cannot return, beat up Solo Sikoa, and then say, what's happening? What do you mean, what's happening? You left, I took over, you came back and you beat me up. It's almost as if Solo Sikoa is the face. It's astounding how poorly written this is. Think about it logically, right? Roman Reigns leaves. What would have happened to the Bloodline once Roman Reigns was gone? What are they supposed to do, right? Just disband? Okay, then there's no Bloodline. Solo Sikoa was like, oh, there's a vacuum here. There's no leader. I'm going to be the leader. Now, he's obviously a heel, so he went and he beat up like Jimmy Uso, but nobody gives a shit about Jimmy Uso. And then he beat up Paul Heyman. Nobody really gives a shit about him either, right? So Solo Sikoa did what needed to be done. Now, Roman Reigns comes back, justifiably so, because, you know, Solo Sikoa is like, I'm the tribal chief now. And Roman Reigns is like, no, I am. And he beats him up. But now he comes out and he's like, what are you doing to our family? What the fuck? No main eventer should ever be talking like this. You know, this whole Bloodline thing is a complete disaster. I don't give a shit about the Bloodline saga. Oh, Solo Sikoa took a shit on Roman Reigns' carpet. I don't care at all. Nobody cares at all about this, right? But basically, Roman Reigns comes out and he says nothing, right? Solo Sikoa says, acknowledge me. Roman Reigns says, I acknowledge you, right? And then Solo Sikoa says, no, acknowledge me as the tribal chief. And then Roman Reigns says, you just sit silent. And then Solo says, acknowledge me as the tribal chief or else. And then Roman Reigns says, or else what? And then Solo Sikoa says, or else this. Snaps his fingers. The 3 other jobbers come out. They're dragging Jimmy Uso, who's gotten his ass beat by them. Then they go into the ring. Roman Reigns fights them off a little bit. Then they whoop his ass. He gets the Samoan Spike a couple of times. And that's the end of the segment. Now, and the end of the show. Now, keep in mind what we just saw here. For the 19th time since his return, Roman Reigns' return will go down in history as the worst, not one of the worst, as the worst return of all time. There has never been someone of such a high caliber who has returned and has had less impact than Roman Reigns. It's almost as if he hasn't returned yet, but he's returned months ago. Nobody could possibly give a shit. At this point, Roman Reigns is no longer a credible threat to the Bloodline because week in and week out, the Bloodline beats his ass. You understand what I'm saying? They continue to beat his ass and further humiliate him. So the question becomes, well, if Roman Reigns is just getting his ass beat, why should I care about him, right? He never gets the one up. And when he does, it's because of people like Cody Rhodes, who was strangely absent, right? Jimmy Uso and Roman Reigns saved his ass. Why doesn't he return the favor? We know he's there in a suit. Come out and you know, get your ass kicked too. But whatever, he doesn't have to do that. It's not his battle, I guess, right? Which is odd, because when Roman Reigns said it's not your battle last month, Cody Rhodes was like, I want to be part of this. So, okay, are you or are you not, motherfucker? Right? Furthermore, what exactly is the point of this feud? What is the point of it? They had the feud. The feud should be over. Solo Sikoa and his right-hand man, Jacob Fatu, wrestled Roman Reigns and the WWE champion, Cody Rhodes. And Cody Rhodes and Roman Reigns came out on top. So with all that being said, why is this still happening? What is the point? What is Roman Reigns trying to achieve? At least, as I said earlier, Solo Sikoa as a character makes sense. Solo Sikoa's goal is to be acknowledged as the tribal chief. Yes, it's a stupid goal, but it is nevertheless a goal that has precedent, right? That's the entire Roman Reigns run as the tribal chief, is him saying, acknowledge me. So Solo Sikoa is like, okay, I feel insecure because I'm not really the tribal chief, but I'm going to kick your ass until you accept me as the tribal chief. Essentially, he's doing exactly what Roman Reigns did to Jey Uso, right? It's the same thing. Jey Uso wouldn't acknowledge Roman. Roman beat his ass thoroughly until he did, right? So Solo Sikoa is completely justified in terms of kayfabe to do the same thing to Roman Reigns. Now, Roman Reigns doesn't have to be a pussy like Jey Uso, and he can just say, I don't acknowledge you, which is what he's doing, right? But as the hero of the story, I would expect him to, number one, kick ass, and number two, have a plan. What is Roman Reigns' plan? Like, what is his goal, right? Is his goal to beat up Solo Sikoa? Well, he did that. He did it with Cody Rhodes. He pinned him, right? He pinned Solo Sikoa in the middle of the ring, so he's like, I'm the tribal chief now. I pinned you, right? I beat you. You know, the entire Jey Uso, Roman Reigns storyline was, oh, we're going to fight, right? The two of us are going to fight, and the winner is going to be the tribal chief. Roman Reigns beat Jey Uso. Alpha and Sika came out. They acknowledged him as well. And Roman Reigns became the tribal chief. It's as simple as that, right? Now, Roman Reigns beat Solo Sikoa. So, by the same logic, Roman Reigns should be the tribal chief. Now, if the rules of being tribal chief require that the two of them have a one-on-one match, then fine. Roman Reigns should say, I want to have a one-on-one match with you. Winner becomes tribal chief. But he's not doing that. He's just coming out there and saying like, oh, I'm going to solve this. And then he goes and gets his ass beat. But it's like, how are you going to solve it? How are you going to solve it, right? This entire thing is only going to put over Jey Uso. Who gives a shit about Jey Uso? Jey Uso sucks, right? I mean, I have to respect what he's done with his career, but nevertheless, he's not like this massive star or anything like that. But I digress. The entire point that I'm trying to make here is predicated upon the idea that Roman Reigns should have some sort of end goal. And we have yet to see it. It's been like 4 months, right? We thought that the end goal was going to be bad blood. You know, he wins, right? But at this point, it's pretty much done. I'm going to do a whole video on the Bloodline, probably next, and release it tomorrow or something. And I'm going to explain all that in much more detail there. But all you need to know about Smackdown is that it sucked ass. With everybody saying, hater rules, cuckolds.